Hey everyone, this video is going to go over how to make quizzes using Google Forms. I know a lot of teachers have been using Google Forms for surveys and other things, but there's a really good feature for using Google Forms for quizzes, and I'm going to go over it right now and also give you some recommendations based upon experiences that I've had creating quizzes, and hopefully you won't have those same issues when you're getting started. So first off, if you notice, when I create a Google Forms quiz, I always start in my Drive. A lot of people like to go to Google Forms and then do it there, but everything, in my opinion, is best done starting with the Drive because you know exactly where it's going to be and you can place it there. So I want to make a Spanish quiz. I could put it in one of these individual topic folders, but I'll just put it right here. I click on New, and you're not going to see Google Forms. You have to click More, and now Google Forms will come up. You put it in the shared folder, and now you've created your Google Form. I'm going to call this one Practice Quiz. You're going to see that come up right here, and we have a name for it. So let's go over a few things. First of all, let's do a little basic customization of it. So you can customize the theme. It's this little palette right here. And you have different options. You can put a small image on the top. They have generic ones. You can also upload or go through your photos. I'll just, for this sake, I'll put this one here. Then other things, you can change the theme color. Well, this one's giving me specific options, but if I chose a different image, I'd have other options. Background color, slight changes like that. And then we have a couple of different font options. So I'll just change this one. Now, next thing. What I always do when I get started with creating a quiz is I go into settings, the gear, and I go to quizzes, and I immediately make this a quiz. That's important. Making it a quiz gives you an option to put an answer key on each Google Form question that you put up there. I want to go over a couple of things. Now, one of the options right here is to turn on locked mode. And basically what that does, and it only works if people are taking a Google Forms quiz on a Chromebook. And this is important why I'm going to mention it. But basically what it does is when students open up this Google Form, they cannot go on anything but this Google Form until they're done. Now, I personally don't use it, and I'll explain to you why. I have GoGuardian, which basically I can see what the students are doing while they're taking a quiz, so I don't have a need to do this. And the other issue that you're potentially going to have is if students are going to take these at home, they're possibly not going to be taking them on Chromebooks, and therefore when they try to open the Google Form, it's not going to open. So that's a potential issue. Like I said, if you plan on either definitely having the students do the forms on Chromebooks, or if you're not going to use something like GoGuardian and you want to have that security, then you click that on. Next thing, releasing the grade. I do not recommend immediately after each submission. I highly recommend you do it later after manual review. Reason being, I've had situations in the past where students, they click it, they turn it in, and they get their grade, and it's potentially a grade that they're not expecting, lower than they wanted, and they get quite emotional. So this just gives them a little bit of time in between when they took the quiz and spent all that time. You can choose the best time to give it. Now, the respondents can see this. This is good. Do you want them to see their missed questions after you send it out? And when it's on later after manual review, they're not going to get this information until you release it to them, which I'll show you at the end. Correct answers and point values. So once you have it how you want it, you click saved, and now we can get started. So I'm going to go over some of the basics with this. First off, you have two options. You can do all your questions on just one section, or you can split it up and do separate sections. To create separate sections, you simply do add section right here. And what it's going to do is separate it. Now, what is a section? It's basically you'll be on one page, and then when this section's done, they'll have to click next, and it'll essentially go to a separate web page. If that's how you want to do it, it's up to you. I can tell you from experience, I personally don't do it like that. I like them to be on one. It's just me. I've had some issues with the internet that it's gone off on time, so I like to just have them on one, and then when they click submit, it goes in. So what's an option instead of that? Well, one of your options I use instead of creating sections is I use the titles. So I'll create a title, As you can see, you can move these around. So I'll put this in the front here. And you can use your titles as sections. So you can use it simply as a title bar, or it can be like section 1. I don't know, we'll say multiple choice. So moving in, we have the next thing, and I can also show you if you want to get rid of this. Let's say you don't want this. You have the option by clicking the 3 dots there. You can duplicate, you can move, you can merge. I'll delete it for this one. So section 1, multiple choice. I click right here. I want to add a question. So here's another thing I can recommend. It's going to save you a lot of time. Use your first question as your model. And after you model, let's say, for example, I'm going to have 4 options, okay? And then answer key, I'm just going to make the first option the answer on all of these. I'll show you how this works in a little bit. You can add answer feedback if you like. That's something you can do personally. You don't have to do that. So basically, I have this set up, option 1, 2, 3, and 4. I have the question, which I'll put there. And then when you click on answer key, the option 1 is always going to be the answer. You might say, well, if option 1 is always the answer, aren't the kids going to know that and see the pattern? Well, if you click on the dots here, you can shuffle option order. So basically, option 1 is not always going to be option 1. I click that there, and now that option is shuffled. And another thing I want to mention is going back to answer key, you can set the point value here. So I'm just going to make it 2 points per question. I'm done. I go back up here, and now I'm going to use this as my example or shell question. And to make the rest of my questions, what I'll do is I'll click right here, and this duplicates. So as you can see, I now made the same thing. All the properties will be the same. The points will be the same. I click on the answer key. It's option 1. And as well, you shuffle the option order. It saves you a lot of time. Okay. Now, in creating the question, it's very easy. All you have to do, I'll make my question number 1, and I'll say, I don't know, what we'll use, who owns YouTube? And then you put in your information. Google. I'll put Apple, Tesla, and Microsoft. Now I have my question here. Another thing is you might want to make them all required. And now I have my required question here. And at any time, if you click this eye up here, you can preview what you're doing. So I have it right here. I can click on it, and then you can kind of get an idea of what your quiz is going to look like. Clicking here, you go back to where you were working on. So next thing, we just looked at multiple choice question, but there's a lot of options on different questions. So I can create another one here, or I'll just use this one and I'll modify it. So maybe I want to do instead a checkbox question. And basically same kind of thing, but maybe you have more than one answer. Now in this case, you'd have to add to the answer key. Let's say option 1 and option 2 with the answer. You have to do that. You add it. Same thing. If you're going to have multiple questions like that, a little trick would be to duplicate. I'm not saying it works in every, but like for me, when I just do multiple choice questions, it saves me a lot of time doing that. Other options they have, and you can play around with this. I don't need to go over it. Drop down, linear scale, multiple choice grid, check box, all different kind of things that you can use. Now, the other one I want to go over is the short answer and the paragraph, okay? So short answer and paragraph, essentially the same thing. If it's going to be a longer answer, you would want to use the paragraph. You put your question here, and then the students are going to add the response here. Now, the answer key is a different situation with this. I'm going to put points here, but with a short answer, you could add a correct answer, but they would literally have to write exactly what you put as the answer. And especially with some kind of paragraph, that's not going to be realistic. So unless it's a 1 or 2 word answer, you're not going to do that. You're going to have to go in and manually correct that. And there's an option to manually put the points in for this question. So this is the basics for this part. Next thing I want to show you is just you can be a little bit more creative than just simply doing multiple choice or individual questions. You have 2 options here. Let's say, for example, I'll create another section here. So I move this one up here, section 1, multiple choice. Now, I could add a section, or like I said, I like to do it like this. Add a title, and I'll put it down here. I'll use this as a section, and I'll put this as section 2, and I'll put image response. And then maybe I'll have answer the following questions based upon the image. Now, next thing I'm going to do is select an image. I click here and I add an image. You can upload it. You can take it from your Google Drive and it'll find your images, or you can do an image search on Google. I'll use a mountain. I click this mountain. So you can put text there if you want. Maybe you don't want to. Now, I'm going to have a question based upon that. So I'll click add a question. I'll make it question number 3, and I'll say, what color is the mountain? I'll give 3 options for this. I'm going to make option 1 the answer. I'm going to make it worth 2 points. I'll make it required, and I'll shuffle the option order. Again, if I want to use this same kind of structure, I click the duplicate, and I don't have to go through that again. But I'll make the options green, red, and yellow. So now, looking at your preview, this is what your quiz looks like. You got the multiple choice, you have your section 2 is the image response, and then you have your multiple choice there. Also, just without going in, another option you have with this is instead of doing image, you can do a video response. So you could add a video, you search it up through YouTube, or unless you have the URL, you can have the students watch the video and then answer questions based upon that. So just to show you, I mean, I can go on and on with this. I'm just going to show you really quickly what a finished Google Forms quiz looks like. Okay. So I'm going to show you my Spanish midterm, and this one is a multiple choice section. So all these questions are multiple choice. When the students finish their Google Form quiz, it goes to what's called responses, and you see how many people are done, and you get a lot of data from this. So this is the summary of all the grades. So you can see the average, the medium, and the range, and these are all the different students. We have frequently missed questions on the top. These are the emails with the actual individual scores for the students. And then if we go down here, it goes through each individual question, and you can see how many students answered correctly and how many did incorrect, and you get the percentages. So what's nice about this is you really get a lot of information that you can play with. If there's a particular question that a high percentage of students got wrong, you know it's a certain topic that you need to work on. Okay, and this stays archived for as long as you have the quiz. Okay, there's some other stuff I can go over, but this is essentially the start of it. I'll have a follow-up which will go into a little more detail, how I recommend setting it up, and just some add-ons and other things that you can do. If you have any questions, let me know. Hope you enjoyed.